So I thought we would revisit some of our RHS level 2 pruning that we did earlier in 2020. I always say, remember to look at how a plant responds to the pruning cuts. That takes it forward and allows you to learn what a plant does do. So to my side here, we have got Sambucus nigra, the elderflower, getting a really strong smell off it there, and it looks like a really great sort of shrubby bush of wonderful new growth. But if we part the leaves in here and have a look to find our pruning cuts, because of course we did this pruning to promote really strong growth and big leaves in there. So we've got a good pruning cut, and with our opposite foliage we can see that pruning cut has resulted in two beautiful uprights from it and further growth coming down. So we've got all those vigorous young stems coming up with really big lush leaves, though that will end up being this height. And if you remember, when we cut those stems off, they were that height. So that type of pruning has been done to promote really big lush growth. Similar style of pruning we do on the dogwoods. This is the cornus. I don't know whether you can remember pruning these back, but the stems were like this, and fantastic winter stem, really good, looked amazing all through the winter with the frosts on it, even a little bit of snow. But the trick with the dogwood was to get it pruned before this leapt into action and into life. So just before those buds were starting to burst, we did a prune down, and that was to promote lots of young growth for really good winter stem production. So you have to think when you're pruning, why did we prune it? Why are we going to prune it? And then you come and have a look at the response. So the growth response to our pruning, a lovely flat prune above each of the alternate buds, and you can see the buds are starting to sprout here. We've got a really good amount of growth, and each of those buds will continue throughout the year to go all the way up, and we'll have our wonderful winter stem colour back again. The problem is, if you can get a close-up, is we, in mid-May, are having really cold nights with a lot of wind. And actually, even on something as hardy as a dogwood, that is so easy to root and such a butch, strong plant, look at that frost damage on there. So, in all this dry weather and frosty nights, the plants are suffering. But in the base there, in the middle, the protection from frost that the rest of the plant is given, those buds are fine. So we will still have really good winter stem appearance later on in the season. We've also been pruning along here our Hydrangea Annabelle, Hydrangea arborescens Annabelle. We pruned these a little bit later in the season, not as early as those, because the growth on the top and those dead seed heads, well, they were attractive, but they also gave a little bit of frost protection, because hydrangeas are often really prone to frost. And surprisingly here, they haven't been bothered at all, whereas the cornus has. So horticulture always throws in something unusual. But if we look down into here, look at all this lush growth from these pruning cuts that we've done. So the pruning growth we took down, we took out some of the older stems, took out all of the dead, the 3Ds, and then addressed the shape and the balance of the plant. And look at the growth that we've got, some really lovely young growth right from the centre, filling it out. So each of these should produce those beautiful snowball white flowers. So looking good, and fingers crossed, no more frost damage to come if we're lucky. Going to pan across. We didn't really prune these roses other than to keep ourselves safe, but if you have a look how plants respond to pruning growth. We've got some on here as well, and look how different we have. So this is what you look at. Every time you prune, you look at what a plant gives you back, because pruning is a fantastic tool to use. So those are very prickly roses, so we just chopped them out of the way. We were meant to come back to them. Time and things overtook us. But look at the response to the pruning cuts. We did some proper rose pruning over here for our Floribunda roses. And we've got some really good growth. We were worried about these. We do have rabbits in this area of the garden, and all those roses are prickly, and often those prickles are to keep the animals off from grazing. Young shoots of roses are really tasty for deer and rabbits. So we sorted these Floribundas out. They were really quite unhappy. We did a nice prune, got an open shape, did them just as you would hope to do for moribundas, and we've got some really good growth response for that. So actually fairly happy looking rows, and the rabbits haven't eaten that growth. In terms of the Sambucus, the one we started with was more of a common Sambucus nigra. This is Sambucus nigra black lace, that's correct, isn't it? I think black lace. You can really see the response to the growth, the pruning cuts there and the growth. But if you look carefully, this must be very tasty. So when you sometimes come to look at your pruning cuts, have a look. Something has been coming along and eating the tops off all the young growth. So if you know you've got pests, which is deer, I think this might be deer rather than rabbits, you could actually do your pruning cuts high to get them up and out of that pest area. So sometimes you have to adjust what you plan to do, or put protection around them until they harden up. And on the final thing that we pruned in this area, the Philadelphus over there, not yet in flower but showing good promise. We took out a third of our oldest growth in here. They were incredibly congested. They were very congested and didn't look like two separate shrubs and didn't really have much of an elegance to them. So we pruned out a third of the older stems right down in here, and that shrub's amazing. Look at all this response down here, and this will send us up a whole load of new shoot system into this, so we can revisit this next time and take out a further third and get a really good amount of young growth in, not losing flowers. If you look on here, we've got the flowers that we haven't lost because budding up nicely, because we took out a third and left the rest, and each time so we can prune through a set of seasons and improve that shape. So that's looking good. So we did a really good set of pruning in a very small area of the garden. So I hope you've enjoyed looking back at some of the pruning that we have done.